Hi, I'm John Robert Sutton. I travel the globe searching for amazing ingredients and the hidden gems that have been overlooked by mass distribution. Food that is shared by generation of families, culture, and tradition. I will connect you to the stories behind well-sourced food and the people and places who make it happen. Welcome to another edition of Truth in Food. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. My name is Swedish Egil. I'm going to be asking you some questions today, and the topics that we're going to try to cover today would be pine nut milk from Russia, best travel practices, because you are the expert at traveling, and these are hard times to travel. And we're also going to find out about Elvis' favorite food. So let's get started with pine nut milk from Russia. Can you drink it? Does it taste good?
Yeah, here's the most amazing thing is the ability now, and it's signed, the deal is done. Sutton Selects is bringing officially pine nut milk from Russia, specifically Siberia, the region of Tomsk, to the United States. Now, what is pine nut milk? Why is this so revolutionary? Because when I was in Moscow, and they had run out of milk for my cappuccino, they said, well, you can have what we have a non-dairy milk here. And I'm like, well, what's that? And Russia's version of their non-dairy milk is pine nut milk. It's not almond milk or oat milk or all these other, non-dairy milks we use. And I thought it was so fascinating because it was so delicious. And it was so frothy, and I just could not tell the difference whatsoever, other than this just amazing, creamy cappuccino that was non-dairy. And so I called all my Russian friends, and I told them, hey, can you help me get a hold of them? And after a few months, no one did anything. Can you please, they're not getting back to me. And I've got to go out and visit this company. And I mean, it's way out in Siberia. So from Moscow, it's like another 6-7 hour flight. And you go in the middle, you fly into Novosibirsk. Then from there, I got on a train, and another 2.5, 3 hours from there, I ended up in a city called Tomsk and got in an Uber and just drove right to the factory and showed up the factory door, knocked on the door, and we did a deal. They let me in, we sat down, and I started to ask them questions about pine nuts and pine nut milk. And actually, it's not a pine nut, it's a seed. And it comes from a pine cone, and it takes 100 years for the tree to grow big enough to make a pine cone where you get the edible seeds out of it. That's why in the United States, we cut everything down and didn't realize till the 40s and 50s, it takes 100 years to make a pine cone. We shouldn't have cut all those trees down. So even if you planted trees in the 40s and 50s, it's not going to be into 2040, 2050 until most pine trees in the United States get over 100 years old to make a pine cone. So where in the world do you find these? In Siberia, where no one cut them down. These forests are so massive. And Russia truly has the love of the land. Mir, which means many things. Mir in Russian means earth, and it means peace. It's the same word for both. So it's very interesting, Russia's sacred love for their land, hence massive amounts of pine forests, and also these pine cones. Now, what's pine nut milk? All they do is take the seed out. They're all hand-picked, because you can't, if you start picking them and ripping them down by hand, these trees feel it and next year will not grow pine cones. So you have to be very careful how you tap and bring these things down. And then you individually take a hard shell, which the seed in, and you crack that open, and you then squeeze the juice out of it, or the oil, the pine nut oil out, which in and of itself is incredibly healthy, and it becomes powder, a powder, like a flour. And then all they do is add water, and then the rest is history. That's all it is water and pine nut flour, nothing else. And what Russia found out a long time ago, and study after study has shown, even after World War II, when women were very stressed out, food was very hard, part of the lactation process for babies to accelerate that was to give them pine nut milk. And that was in all the pharmacies and all the hospitals for decades and decades and decades. So then it just went on to, and still to this day in Russia, a lot of women for breastfeeding purposes drink pine nut milk because it's incredibly healthy. Inside the pine nut itself has tremendous amounts of nutrition, vitamins and minerals. And here's the kicker. In the United States, we use almond milk. Now, the vast majority of almonds are grown in a desert in California. Well, wait a minute. Why is that? That shouldn't be. A desert's whole meaning is nothing grows there. But in our desert, we have vast amounts of almond trees to make almond milk. It's destroying the environment. I thought California was this great environmental state, but absolutely not. The family that controls all of the almond trees, they control all of the water. So all of the water resources are being diverted and filling a desert full of almond trees. Not only that, you think the water just gets, how do you think the water gets there? The water has to be pumped there. Pumps require enormous amount of electricity. The vast majority of electricity used in the state of California is to pump water around the state. It's not for residential electricity. It's not for Apple computers. It's to pump water because California's a desert. All that water has to get down there. So all that water is going to water almond trees, which fills the air with pollutants because you're generating electricity. So having almond milk is destroying the environment. Oat milk, on the other hand, a lot of people have an issue with oat milk and have a gluten and a wheat problem. Well, nuts, pine nuts, seeds, no one has any problems with that. There's no known human reaction to drinking milk from seeds. So it's a perfect substitute for a non-dairy product. Now, from an environmental standpoint, you're looking at trees that are growing wild, that are 100 years old and happy and healthy. It's all naturally wild. There is no term organic for it. It's not farmed. It's not put in the ground like wheat for oat milk and growing oats and almonds, factories and pollution and all of the fertilizers and all of the bad air that's generated out of that to create a non-dairy product. It's a crime. Where in Russia, it's all completely beautiful and green, rain, and there's nothing at all that's human beings are doing other than picking these in the summertime, because remember, in the winter, it's 50, 60 below. And in the summer, it's 70, 80 degrees. And so there's a short window to go and pick those. And then we bottle it. We bring it to the United States very shortly. I'm in the process of finalizing the nutritional labels on it. And we're going to have the most unbelievable non-dairy product that exists in the United States. So people better line up and get ready. Now, if you want it sweetened, they add natural honey in there. So Russia has some of the most delicious honey that exists. There's a eucalyptus honey because the bee only gets it from eucalyptus flowers. And there's all sorts of very unique variants of Russian honey. So if you like it sweetened, they use natural honey in there to sweeten it. If you do not want it sweetened, you just use the regular pine nut milk. And it's so delicious. It almost tastes like a natural vanilla flavor. And it's so healthy for you. It's so environmentally good for the planet. It ticks all the boxes. And a company like Starbucks, markets like Whole Foods will definitely be having them. So that's very exciting to be involved in that project, which I was very tight-lipped about, because this is a very competitive environment. A lot of people steal things away. I've had many products stolen from me, but specifically Trader Joe's, but that's another story. And they go and they someone like me does all the hard work, and then people come and take it away. And it's just such as life, that happens. So now we have very good contracts. The people at this factory are fantastic people. So I'm really, really looking forward very shortly, the beginning of next year, to start bringing the containers in for this remarkable pine nut milk.
So I think that was a very good answer, a long answer to a short question. And I guess my only follow-up question would be, how popular is it? Like, how many people drink the pine nut milk in Russia compared to regular milk?
So when you go here to the United States, like to a Starbucks, if you do not want a dairy product for health reasons or environmental reasons or whatever, you have almond milk. You have a substitute. In Russia, the substitute is pine nut milk. And the amount of pine nut milk I've seen people have in their coffees, in their teas, all over the place is substantial. And there really is only one place in Russia that does this because of their patent process and the way they do it. And it can only be put in glass. It cannot be put in plastic for whatever reason. There's something that the pine nut and the water, the pine nut powder and water does, where glass is the best way to keep the flavor and the taste. But it's everywhere in Russia, I've seen it.
Okay. Sounds fantastic, John. So how long before you think that we can get it here in America? And what would be the first place where we can get it? Do you have a website people can follow to see about the progress?
Yeah, my website, suttonselects.com, is where you would be able to initially see that. I want it to be an Erewhon initially because they're really the trendsetter in this, and they really align to my goals. Then into Whole Foods, then into hopefully Coffee Bean, because it meets all of the certifications and standards of someone like a Coffee Bean, which requires a kosher certification, requires non-GMO, requires a very, very, very good certifications. And so that would be a good company to bring it in. So I'm looking, as well as we get all the approvals for the nutritional certificates, and then start loading this up for sale by the first of the year.
All right. Looking forward to it, John. Awesome. Yeah. So now, speaking of travel, it's been a minute since we saw each other, and here we are Zooming with each other because travel is difficult and visiting is almost impossible, but you're traveling still all over the world. So I wanted you to tell me a little bit about the best travel practices during this COVID time.
Yeah, and these are I've flown now to 12 different countries. I've probably flown over 100 flights, back and forth to London 6 or 7 times, Australia, Jamaica, Mexico, the East Coast, and I have been tested many times because the companies and the companies I work for and the contracts I have, it's not fair to give the virus to anybody else. So I have my personal, really strict rules when I travel. And some of the secrets that I've done are kind of quirky, meaning I really stay as far away from people as possible. I know when the plane is going to leave. So there's no reason to herd around the boarding process. I call all those people gate lice. And the gate lice sit and hoard right around the entrance when they call number 1. Even though they might be number 6 or number 7 or number 10, they're all around this gate waiting. Why would I possibly want to be there? So I literally wait until there's no one left to board the plane. Then I board, because why would I want to board early, which I could, and just sit in the plane and have everyone walking past me huffing and puffing? Absolutely not. Why do I want to spend another hour sitting on a plane breathing everybody going by? So I usually am the last person. I sit down and I get a window seat, because that's where the freshest air is circulating and blowing. And I reach up and I point the air blowers blowing right over my mouth, not kind of on my face because it gets cold, but just whizzing by me. So when there's really moving air like that, the odds of something coming up and hitting me are very, very less. Now, I obviously wear a mask. I wear a mask. And my secret too is I look at the load factors before I leave. You know, you can change now if you have a plane ticket, you can same day change anytime you want. So I will go and look at the lowest load factor of the plane. And if something is very high, I'll wake up at 4 a.m. if I have to, and get on the plane if there's like 20% less or less people. I kind of look at the seats of the plane and look at all the dots and see which ones are empty and which ones are full. And then I'll position myself where the less amount of people are on the plane. A lot of times, even if they want to bump me up to first class, I don't want to sit there and be with everybody. Obviously, if the flight is shorter, but again, I try and distance myself from as many people as possible. Also, people have to know that it's safe to be on a plane. It's not like you're sitting in a stale air environment. And they've cranked that up to where that air is now. And I spoke to an engineer. He said it used to be they had the air circulating very low, because everything on an airplane is run by how long it's been running before they have to place it. So the less cycles, the less they have to change it. But the more cycle, the more they have to change. Well, we're in a day of COVID. They've cranked that thing up. That air is now going through every 10 minutes, and you can feel it, and all the filters have been changed. Then I kind of watched people cleaning, and everybody's cleaning the airplane's really being cleaned, every belt, everything, so they're really cleaning it. Now, the time to wear gloves, I mean, you shouldn't wear gloves all the time because your skin is like a glove. So you don't have to have gloves every 2 seconds of your life. But when I do wear gloves is when I'm going through the security, and all those buckets are touched by thousands of people and they're not clean. That's where you're going to get it. So that's when I go and put on gloves and I walk through the security. I take my gloves off and I go and either I have my spray gel or gel in my bag, or I wash my hands. Then I get on the plane and I wash my hands and gel right before the plane takes off. And I usually, every hour and a half, 2 hours, I try and go and wash my hands again. I was kind of a germaphobe before, so this is just now accelerated. I do wear a mask all the time when I'm in the airport as much as I can. I have glasses depending on, like, I don't wear them all the time, but if I feel someone around me is coughing, or I can pick up maybe somebody over there coughing and sneezing, then I'll put on glasses. But so far, so good. Other things I do is I take vitamin D. I have a little droplet and it's liquid, and I've spoken to many doctors about it. And it's something you need anyway. It's a deficiency. Either you get it by the sun or you take it, you can take it by a tab, but the most effective way is you buy it and it's in liquid drops, and I just put it in a glass of water or on the plane and drink it. I always carry a water bottle. Now, I don't buy the water. I like clean filtered water now that's at all the airports. So I'll bring the empty water bottle through security, then I'll go, and it's I don't know, it's a soothing, fun thing for now, is to just go there, open it up, and put that delicious, clean, filtered water that's at these airports. And it's funny how many people look at me, some odd, some like, oh, that's a good idea. But I've never seen one single person do it all over the world, from LAX to Heathrow. And there's these beautiful water machines that actually are there for you to fill up your water bottle. I just don't know why more people aren't doing it. But why do I do that? Because I have a packet of vitamin C and immune boosting packet of it's kind of a powder. And I also use that to boost my immune system, to coat my throat with vitamin C, and to coat my system. To basically what that does is help not the virus connect to one each other. Not to say that it's a medical thing. It's not proven or unproven. It's just worked for me. So I'm not a doctor. I can't say that that's going to heal you or anything. I just do it. And so far, so good.
It sounds like some very good advice right there. So how often do you get tested? Do you get tested as soon as you get back home from a trip?
Yeah, I try and I get tested before I go. So I can show that certificate at Heathrow or show that certificate upon arrival if needed. And I usually, they don't ask for it, but I show it anyway. And when I'm at a meeting and I'm meeting a client, I will take that certificate and let them know, sir, out of respect, I had just been tested 3-4 days ago, and here's the results of my test. Just because it's not fair to just show up from the United States, which is the most infected mess that exists on the face of the world, and go where somebody's been quarantining themselves. They have their families. They're not going to flat out ask me because they will feel maybe embarrassed to do it. So I take the prerogative and the initiative to go and show them, even though they don't ask for it, just to make everyone at ease of what I'm doing.
That's a polite thing to do. Very nice. Now, you also traveled to Memphis. You went to Graceland. And what I know about Elvis Presley's diet was that he loved hamburgers, but I'm sure he ate something else. What do you know?
Well, this was so interesting. I went to Memphis because it's really the barbecue, Texas, but to me, it's the barbecue capital of the world. And I had gone to look at a whole bunch of rubs and barbecue sauce because there's a big run on that. A lot of people are cooking at home. They're experimenting, and they're going to their local grocery store and looking at this, disgusting barbecue sauce from these large corporations, and people want something unique. And Memphis has the best sauce and rub, I believe, in the US. So I went there, and then I found out, oh my God, Graceland's here. Elvis lived here. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So I'm like, well, let's see what I can do. So I went over there. No one was around. I pulled up by the mansion. I walked up the driveway. There was some buses coming, but I didn't understand. No one was getting out. And I knocked on the door. Oh, they opened it up. I went in. They shut the door, and I'm in Graceland.
Wow.
All alone. Okay? All alone. And the lady was pointing and showing me things. She said, you can't go upstairs. That is closed. That's closed off. And I'm looking around, and it was dated. It was kind of like, 70s-ish. And, it was like lost in time there. And there was a dining room table that Lisa Marie goes, and she'll come over and have like dinner there and stuff, because that's where she grew up. And Priscilla, who he divorced, is still alive. She comes a couple times every couple years. She lives in LA. She's 75. They said she's so nice really sweet lady. I didn't even realize she was still alive. And then I walk into the kitchen and I'm looking, and they said that the kitchen literally was left the same exact way when he died. And the stove was an electric stove. It wasn't a gas stove. And he had one of those steel, pans on there, one of those, pans. And then there was a microwave. He had bought for $700 the very first microwave that Memphis had ever seen. And, he was a meat eater. He loved barbecue. He loved soul foods, a lot of rich foods. The only thing he never allowed in that kitchen, and if it ever ended up in the kitchen, you will never be allowed in the house, and that was fish. He hated fish. Didn't want any of that in there. But of course, he was very famous for his peanut butter, bacon, banana sandwiches with white bread that was fried with butter. And that was a very famous thing that he liked. He didn't eat it every single day, but he really liked it. 1970, though, when he was, famously with Richard Nixon, the picture with him, he weighed 159 kilos and he ate 10 to 12,000 calories every day.
Oh my
so
goodness.
he was getting big and all of that fried stuff. And, unfortunately, he passed away because of a heart attack. And, part of a lifestyle and diet caused that. But his kitchen, he also loved this mountain spring water that comes in this green bottle, and loved soda pop. Just had soda pop. He was not a drinker. He didn't drink alcohol. He just did not really enjoy alcohol and didn't have it. He had a bar and he had things for other people, but he loved his soda, loved it.
So when you went to Memphis, did you also go to his first record company? I think he started out recording for something called Sun Records. And how was your visit there?
Boy, that was another eye opener, because here is a record company that's so famous, not for Elvis, but so many other people. Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison, B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf. I mean, the list goes on. But Elvis, he drove he was a delivery guy for kind of a hardware company, electric company. And he saved up $4, because at that time you could just walk into Sun Records, pay $4, record your song, and have a record and walk out with it. So when he walked into Sun Records for the very first time, the owner wasn't there, this guy named Sam Phillips, but his secretary was. And his secretary just, she died in the 90s, but she said when she saw Elvis, she said there was something electric there. There was something there that was unbelievable. And she went in and recorded the record and handed it to Elvis when the owner wasn't even there. And she said it was so amazing that she had Elvis come back to make another record with Sam. And then they took that to a famous DJ, and the rest was history. So it was so unique to go to that Sun record company. It's still, all the stuff is still there, original items, just exactly like it was. And Sam, before he died, brought something very special there and said, don't put it in a museum, leave it here for everybody to see. And it was the original microphone that Elvis and Roy and everybody had used to record on. And Sam gave it to them just before he died. And it's there that you can grab and yell at and talk and everything.
Oh, that's fantastic. You should have recorded a record while you were there, John.
I should have, for sure. Definitely.
Awesome. Great conversation today, John. Thank you so much. Now, if people wanted to check out your website again, give that address out one more time.
I will. You could go to www.suttonselects.com or follow me on social media at Sutton Selects. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today in Truth and Food. I'm John Robert Sutton, and we will see you soon.
My name is Swedish Egil. Thank you for letting me ask the questions. Stay safe, and yes, we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Bye.